Two important points to begin. The research on magnesium and autism is real. It's also incomplete. You deserve to know both of those things because some parents have been burned by quote unquote facts that weren't facts, but someone's wishful thinking or their personal experience treated as an inevitability for everyone. So today we're going through what those studies actually found and what they didn't find and where the gaps are because the gaps matter. Knowing all of that is what helps you make a real decision, not just a hopeful one. I'm Diane Luzny, and I work with moms of kids on the autism spectrum, age 4 to 12, who also have sleep issues. In the first two videos, we covered what magnesium does in the autistic nervous system and which forms are worth using versus which ones to walk past. This video answers the bigger question underneath all of that. Is magnesium actually more helpful for people on the spectrum versus those who are not? And if so, for everyone on the spectrum? Point 1. The logical case of why autistic children are likely running low of magnesium. Let me start with what we can say with confidence, even before we get to the studies. We know from video 1 that magnesium is consumed faster when the nervous system is running at a higher activation level, processing more sensory input, managing more transitions. We also know that the foods highest in magnesium, like leafy greens, legumes, raw or soaked nuts, seeds, and some whole grains, the foods autistic children with sensory-based selective eating reject. So we have a population that's probably intaking less magnesium and likely burning through more magnesium than the average person. That's not a study finding, that's just logic. Now, some studies have found measurably lower magnesium levels in autistic children compared to neurotypical children of the same age. Others, including a well-designed study of 148 boys, found no significant difference in serum magnesium between the two groups. As a side note, as you will hear later, serum levels aren't the best and most reliable measurement to use. That inconsistency across studies isn't unusual in this kind of research. Different populations, different measurement methods, different ages, different circumstances. What it tells us is that we can't assume every autistic child is deficient. Some are, some aren't. The ones most likely to be low are the selective eaters, the children whose diet has genuinely limited their intake of magnesium over time. So the logical case for magnesium in this population is reasonable and grounded. The research confirms it in some children. It just doesn't confirm it in all of them. That distinction matters for the rest of the video. Point 2. What the research found and what it didn't prove. Studies from several different research groups have looked at magnesium supplementation in autistic individuals, many of them in combination with vitamin B6. When I say that, I think of a bingo game. With vitamin B6. The consistent finding, roughly half of participants showed a meaningful improvement. Sleep, behavioral difficulties, evening reactivity, no significant adverse effects, and that's great. But here's what I want to be clear about. Those studies gave magnesium to autistic children and watch what happened. They did not test magnesium levels first. They did not separate the deficient children from those not deficient before starting. So when we say roughly half responded, we don't actually know whether the half that improved were the ones who were low in magnesium. It's a reasonable assumption. It fits the biology, but it wasn't tested that way, so we can't say it was a fact. What we can say is this. In a group of autistic children, given magnesium with no selection for deficiency, about half showed improvement. No significant negative side effects were noted. If we could separate out the children who were actually deficient, the selective eaters, the high activation nervous systems, the response rate might be higher. We don't know. That study hasn't been done yet. One more finding worth mentioning. Magnesium paired with vitamin B6 consistently outperforms magnesium alone. B6 supports magnesium uptake at the cellular level. Have a conversation with your doctor about both magnesium and vitamin B6. As has been mentioned and will be mentioned in other videos in the series, some types of magnesium can have an impact on specific medications. So it's definitely a topic worth raising. Point 3, the test question. So here's why testing matters, not just as a cautious thing to do, but as the only honest way to find out whether your child is actually a candidate. The researcher gave magnesium to everyone and found roughly half responded. If your child is one of the half who are genuinely low, there's a reasonable biological case that restoring those levels could help. If your child is okay, their magnesium levels are fine, then supplementing probably isn't going to answer their sleep difficulty. Something else is driving their sleep difficulty. And knowing that earlier saves months of the wrong approach, following the magnesium approach. There are 2 tests worth knowing about. The first is serum magnesium, the standard blood test. This is what most doctors will order if you ask. Don't quote me, but somewhere I heard that in Canada it's about $10. Even if it's more than that, it's a smaller amount for a test. The limitation is that serum magnesium can look normal even when the body's actual stores are low. The body tries to keep the blood level of magnesium stable, so it takes from other areas to make sure it's stable. By the time the serum test flags low, the depletion is often already significant. The second test is the RBC magnesium, red blood cell magnesium. This measures magnesium inside of cells themselves, which gives a more accurate picture of what's actually available to the body's tissues. It's less commonly ordered. Most GPs default to serum without being asked. It's also less likely to be covered. In most Canadian provinces, it runs roughly $40 to $80 out of the pocket, depending on the lab and the province. What you can do. Before buying anything, or if you've already started and you're not sure it's doing anything, ask your child's doctor to test magnesium levels. The conversation is something like this. I've been looking into magnesium deficiency in autistic children. The research suggests autistic kids, particularly selective eaters, may be running low. Can we test their levels? And specifically, can we do an RBC magnesium rather than just a serum? I understand it may not be covered, but I'd like the more accurate picture. Is there a way to have it covered? And if not, how much is it? That's a specific, informed, reasonable request. Most doctors will work with it. And if the result comes back normal, that's useful too. One less thing to worry about. Magnesium is part of over 300 body processes, and it's good to know where your child stands in this area. If your doctor asks why you want the RBC, share with them. Autistic kids with selective eating have reduced dietary intake of magnesium. A higher activation nervous system uses up the magnesium faster. Those 2 together make a deficiency a reasonable thing to check for. Not a certainty, but worth ruling out before spending time on that approach, that is, looking at magnesium. Also, look at the list of high magnesium foods and try to add some to your child's diet. If you're considering supplementing, understand that there's many, many forms of magnesium, and each one impacts the body in a different way. Some impact medications as well. Check out our video 2 in this series to understand the types of magnesiums more fully. Even if magnesium can help you, that takes time, and sometimes you just need immediate help. In the description, you'll find my free guide on what to do with the 5 pre-bedtime states: clingy, wired, withdrawn, post-meltdown, or luckily, hopefully, calm. What each one of those states is telling you and how to respond. Quick to read, immediately useful. If you've decided that magnesium worth trying, or you're already using it and not sure if you're doing it right, we're going through timing, dosing, what realistic change actually looks like, and if your child is on medication, to get a short list of what medications have an interaction with magnesium. That's in the next video. Look forward to seeing you there.